you're exactly correct. It's always great to continue to review and make sure that what you have lines up with where you're at, with your time frame, your tolerance for risk, and your plan for your income needs.
Welcome to the Your Life, Your Money podcast with Scott Searens, teaching you how to thrive in life, wealth, and retirement.
Welcome into Your Life, Your Money, the podcast that helps you thrive in life, wealth, and retirement. I am Ben George, along with Scott Searens, President and Financial Advisor at Searens Financial Group. Today we're talking about the 3 traits of money and the trade-offs you might have to make to get certain traits, depending on what you're trying to accomplish with your money. So we'll take you through that discussion today. Also have a headline we'll get some reaction on. I'll do that with Scott. Scott, how you doing, man?
Ben, life's good. Actually, you know what? I got my first cut in on my lawn here in Illinois. We finally hit that spring weather. So that's an exciting weekend, right? You get the first cut in, you start to see those lines in the lawn. It's looking green. I'm excited.
I just cut the yard for the second time yesterday. It's getting a little bit long, but yeah, it's always a nice time of the year. Everything's green, blooming. The pollen's been bad for me, but otherwise it's been nice.
Yeah, you got to watch out for those allergies, right? That's that time of the year too. Absolutely.
Well, I'm looking forward to our conversation today on the 3 traits of money and kind of, going through trade-offs. Life's about trade-offs. For many of the decisions we make, we have to sacrifice something for something else. So we'll go through that today and kind of determine how to build a portfolio based on the traits of money. I think it's going to be a good conversation.
Looking forward to it.
Let's start off with a headline before we get going here on the show, because interest rates are still low. They've kind of creeped up a little bit, but still, when you kind of step back and see the big picture, interest rates still are very, very low. And, many people are thinking about buying a home, thinking it's a great time to buy a home. But on the flip side, let's talk about trade-offs. On the flip side, interest rates are low, but the home values are high. So it's also a great time to sell a house. Which one are we supposed to be doing right now?
That's a great question. Ben, my girlfriend's a realtor, and she's been telling me, right now that inventory is low. And so sellers, right, since inventory is so low, there's not as many homes for sale on the market. And a lot of sellers are getting over their asking price. And so then you look at that and you go, wow, right? Look at what we could potentially get for our home right now.
Yep.
But you really have to think about that. Hey, if you're going to sell, do you still need a place to live? And so, yes, while you might sell high, you also might then be buying high, right? And that can be really tough right now because since it is that seller's market, inventory is low, from what she's told me, there's a lot of situations where there's multiple offers. So I think, as you kind of go through that process, you really have to say, okay, look at it from the long-term perspective. Okay, if we do need to move, we need to move. But will we be in this new place for a really long term? And hey, if you don't need to move, as you mentioned, Ben, interest rates are low. Even though they've begun to creep up a little bit, they're still relatively pretty low. Maybe it's a good time to refinance, save on the overall term that you're paying on your, the length of your mortgage, or save on the overall interest that you're paying. If you're an investor in real estate right now, I guess I'd have to say proceed with caution. And, will you be okay if you had to hold that property? Could you hold it for the long term, as an investor? So yeah, quite the interesting real estate market to watch right now.
Yeah, it's been really interesting. It's always, when we see a home go on sale on the market in our neighborhood, we're always keeping a close eye. And it happened recently where we had one that was across the street from us that went, same weekend, right? Multiple offers, and we finally saw that listing. Probably I keep an eye on Zillow to see when it updates, right? To see what it sold for, and it sold for like $40,000 over ask, and it was like, wow, this is incredible right now. But on the flip side, it's like, well, if we move, we're gonna be paying a lot anyway. So it's fun to track, but it's a very interesting scenario that we're all kind of in the middle of right now.
Absolutely.
Well, let's jump into our main conversation today on the 3 traits of money. What trade-offs do we need to make? And if you don't know the answer to this question, this episode is going to be perfect for you as well. And we're going to put it up online at lifemoneyshow.com as well after we get done, so you can go back and listen to it again if you need to. We're going to explore the 3 traits of money, discuss, whether you can achieve them in a single investment, and what trade-offs you might have to make to get maybe 1, 2 of those traits. in your portfolio or whatever you want to do with your money, but also how to put the right emphasis on the different qualities as well. So it's really a basic conversation, but understanding these different traits can really make an enormous difference in your financial life. And we talk about trade-offs, and that's what life's all about, Scott, is you're going to have so many different decisions in your life that you got to decide, what am I willing to give up?
You're exactly right. So before we dive into money, I thought we'd kind of take this in a different route first to kind of get the mind thinking about trade-offs and then be able to relate this to their money. But so I was kind of thinking here, let's pick the topic of a home renovation. So when you're maybe renovating a different portion of your home, it could just be, want to do something different in your living room, or maybe you're going to renovate the bathroom or the kitchen. There's different trade-offs that you need to make when doing that renovation. And those trade-offs or characteristics of different products that you might be looking at as you consider these different trade-offs, right? It could be from an aesthetic standpoint. It might be how long will that product last? It could be from a financial standpoint. So let's just, look at flooring, right? So you're picking flooring for a new room. Well, there's carpet, there's vinyl, there's tile, there's hardwood, and each one of those has different characteristics to it. And as you're going through that process, you're saying, oh, okay, well, maybe I want hardwood because it's going to last longer, or maybe I want carpet because it's a little bit lower cost. And so they each have their different traits, characteristics. Same if you're replacing your driveway, right? Maybe you're looking at concrete or asphalt or pavers. I'll give you a personal story here. I renovated my kitchen, and one of the decisions I had to make was, well, which kind of flooring do I want for my kitchen? I ended up choosing hardwood. For me, I recognize, yes, I'm going to have to pay a little bit more for hardwood that, was sanded and stained on site. But for me, I looked at it as that, okay, hey, this is going to be easier to clean. If we need to change the color in the future, they just have to sand it down. They can restain it, change it to a new color. But some of the trade-offs were, like I mentioned, I pay a little bit more for that. It would be susceptible to scratch. So, am I okay that rock on a shoe or something like that the hardwood gets scratched? So basically, as we go through life, there's different decisions that we make, and we look at all the traits and characteristics of the different products of those decisions and have to make trade-offs to achieve where we want to go. The other part of all that too is there's also an emotional part. And for me, when I was renovating my kitchen, like part of the emotional part was like, I just really, really, really wanted hardwood.
Yeah.
Something I always wanted. And so, hey, maybe I had to give up in some other areas if I was going to pay a little bit more for the hardwood of, some other areas in the kitchen that I needed to be a little bit more cost effective on.
Right. And that kind of gives you a good perspective of this conversation on money. So let's kind of shift and make it about money now. In designing that portfolio, I know we all the goal is, hey, I want the perfect portfolio, Scott. I don't want to, I want to make as much as I can. I don't want to take on as much risk, all these different things. I want all the different traits. So let's talk about building that portfolio based on these three traits.
You're exactly right, Ben. Boy, if we could all create the perfect portfolio, what would we want? Well, we'd want, growth. We'd want safety, and we'd want liquidity. I've got the opportunity to meet with lots and lots of clients, through my practice. And one of the things that I, continuously hear as people come in, and, a lot of times dealing with those that are, age 55 and up. So they're kind of getting closer to that retirement. They say, hey, Scott, we would really like for our money to grow, but we don't want to lose it. And we want to make sure it's there and available for us. And I know as they are telling me this, right, that they realize that this perfect investment doesn't really exist. So we have to look and, again, go back to these three traits, right? I think the three main traits that we're all looking for in a perfect investment, unfortunately doesn't exist, would be growth, safety, and liquidity. And while we can't get all three, sometimes we can get one, sometimes we can get two out of the three. But I find when you try to go for all three, that's when, well, like I said, it doesn't exist, but we then end up, accomplishing some of these really, really poorly.
Yeah, that's the problem. You try to chase it, but you have to take a very calculated approach to your portfolio, which is why you work with an advisor to help you kind of build this thing. So what's the best single investment that achieves, that kind of gets you in that area, right? Let's talk about how we can maybe get one, two of these things. So let's go through some different investments. I think laying out some different examples might help people understand, okay, what gets us growth, what gets us safety, what gets us liquidity. And some of this stuff for some people might be a pretty straightforward conversation, but I think laying it out in different types of investments will help. So let's start with cash.
Yep. So let's start with cash. From a cash standpoint, now you might be thinking like your checking or savings, right? We've got the safety there. And you've got the liquidity there. But as we talked about earlier, interest rates are really, really low. That's where we're not getting growth. Again, 2 out of 3, we've got safety, we've got liquidity. But from a cash standpoint, we don't have any sort of growth right now in our from a cash standpoint.
Yeah.
Now, let's just say we want growth. We want to get that growth. And we want the liquidity. Well, then you're probably going to have to give up safety. And what you'd be looking at there would be like stocks. You'd be looking at bond funds, mutual funds, exchange traded funds, where you're going to get that growth in those products over long, and depending on what kind of investment or product or instrument that you're using here, that could be over a short period of time. It could be over a long period of time. But as we mentioned, this level right here, right? So if we want growth and liquidity, we're then going to have to give up safety. And the other thing to really think about here too is depending on the level of growth that you want to get also means how much safety that you'll have to give up, or how much levels of risk that you might also have to take as well.
That makes sense. Liquidity is another one that I want to talk about kind of quickly. What are some ones that you can maybe get the growth and safety, but you sacrifice that liquidity on?
So a type of investment or an investment-like product that you'd be looking at there would be like an annuity. An annuity, there's lots and lots of different types of annuities out there. That could be a whole episode in its own. But just from a general standpoint, a lot of times in annuities, you can get growth or a portion of growth. You can get that protection of your principal, but you are then limited to the liquidity. As that company is providing you that safety along with growth, a lot of times then you're committing to that company for a term, a length of time where they're going to help provide you that protection, but that commitment to them says, okay, hey, we've got to keep our money there for a length of time. We might be able to make withdrawals of a certain amount over that time period. And then once that time period's, passed, well, then you might have all of your access to 100% of your funds. So again, trade-offs, right? We're getting our growth or portions of growth. We're getting our safety. But then we have to say, okay, are we willing to make a commitment for a certain time period?
I would imagine that everybody kind of has different goals for their money and their investments. And, I kind of think about it probably has to do with where you are in life and your age. And I think a lot of people chase growth quite a bit. But do you find that there's one of these traits that clients kind of lean towards more often than others?
What I've actually found is that, and that's why, going back to my story of renovating my kitchen, and from an emotional standpoint, it was like hardwood. That's what I really wanted to put in my kitchen. What I found is that people can become emotionally tied to their money as well, right? And so I found actually everyone's a little bit different. I have met with clients where, they're putting a lot of focus still on growth. I've found clients where, as they come in, it's safety is their number one concern. And if they give up liquidity, that's okay. If they give up a little bit of growth, that's okay, because they're emotionally, that's safety is their number one concern. So everyone's a little bit different. I haven't seen where, one person's maybe putting too much emphasis on one quality over the other. But I do feel, over time, our trade-offs might change. And, let's just kind of focus on our younger years where, we're starting work, we're making money, we're starting to save money. Well, there really we're more focused on growth. And so we have that ability to trade off and to, I'll say give on safety because we've got that time to recover. But here's where I think, that trade-offs need to kind of start to adjust and change when folks are approaching retirement. So they might be 10 years away or 5 years away. Gosh, while we really, really like that growth, we really need to start adding in some of that safety. What if the market were to correct? What if, we were to need some of these funds because of an early retirement? And then for those folks that are in retirement, well, you really need kind of all three of these, right? You need growth. got to make the money last. You need safety in case there's a correction. And then you need your liquidity because, well, you're in retirement and you've saved this money to use it and to spend it. And so in a retirement portfolio, that's going to look a lot different than the portfolio of your accumulation years. Accumulation years solely focused on growth, ability to give up on safety. Now that retirement portfolio, right, now you're kind of working with a lot of different trade-offs. And that's why that becomes, I'll say, a little bit more unique to build those portfolios because you have to understand that, yep, we are still going to have some growth. We need that growth. But in portions of your portfolio, you're going to have to start trading off growth to bring in a little bit of safety. And you're also going to have to start making some trade-offs because of growth because you need to bring in some liquidity. So, like I said, great to understand what would we love for that perfect portfolio to look like. Unfortunately, that doesn't exist. So as we invest our money, what are the different trade-offs that we need to understand, the characteristics that we need to understand, and hopefully it helps people as they look to build their portfolios and put it all together.
Yeah, so I think the important thing for this conversation is understanding what the three traits are, right? Understanding, it's growth, safety, and liquidity. But then also just kind of realizing that these are going to shift through the years. And I think that's why laying out how these trade-offs change over time is important because, like with all aspects of planning, it's not about, build your plan and you're good to go for retirement. You got to constantly be making adjustments and evolving as, your goals and your needs change.
Absolutely.
So it's a great conversation. It's something I hope, people kind of think about a little bit deeper. And if you already kind of understand it, great. But if you need to go back through again, feel free to listen to the episode again. And always, if you want to get in touch with Scott and kind of talk about your portfolio and whether or not you're meeting the traits that you want to meet. And I guess a lot of times, Scott, too, I mean, you might think building your own portfolio on your own, that you're getting this growth or the safety or liquidity that you think you are. But I think it's probably a lot like risk, right? Where you just might not be as lined up as you think you are.
You're right. So over time, your portfolio can shift, portfolio could change. You might think that, okay, hey, here's where I'm at. I feel like I'm at a good balance, but based on how you're actually invested, the stocks, the bonds, the funds that you actually own, you might be taking on more risk than you actually thought that you were. And so you're exactly correct. It's always great to continue to review and make sure that what you have lines up with where you're at, with your time frame, your tolerance for risk, and your plan for your income needs.
Absolutely. Well, look, if you want to learn more about what Scott does, how he helps his clients, you can visit the website, lifemoneyshow.com. We got all of our podcasts there, plus links to other resources. But also, there's Scott has a YouTube channel as well that you can check out on your time to kind of get more information. Just kind of continue educating yourself. It's the Retirement 360 Blueprint. You can find that. Just search that in Scott's name, Scott Sierens, and you'll find the videos there. We're putting our podcasts on the YouTube channel as well if you prefer to listen that way. But either way, subscribe to the show. We would greatly appreciate that. Scott, thanks for taking us through the three traits of money today. I think it's an important discussion, maybe basic on some levels, but it is important to understand that, hey, we all want all three, growth, safety, and liquidity, but you got to get some trade-offs at some point.
Ben, thanks for your time and make it a great day.
Sierens Financial Group is an independent financial services firm that utilizes a variety of investment and insurance products. Investment advisory services offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AE Wealth Management and Sierens Financial Group, Inc. are not affiliated companies. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. Sierens Financial Group, Inc. is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein, provided by third parties, have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Sierens Financial Group, Inc.